Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the very structures of international order is undergoing a profound transformation. The world order is changing very rapidly and drastically. The geopolitics is shifting from unipolar world to multipolar world. The reason behind this change is basically coercive unilateral action against Russia by the Western powers. The West put several kinds of ban against Russia, including SWIFT ban and the ban on the Russian goods. Because of that bans, the world is facing scarcity of several goods that includes food grains, oil, coal and fertilizer. These bans are also hurting India's energy security because of the huge rise on gas and oil price. Anyway, Russia is helping India to give $30 to $35 discount per barrel. But the main constraint is the logistic because of the lengthy route for import from the Russia, and that is costing India huge forex reserve. That is why India came up with a route that will going to reduce the India's import cost and the time of import. And the route goes through the Iran, Caspian Sea to the Russia, and India will going to use that route relentlessly. The route is also sanctions proof from the Western nations, and the name of the route is International North-South Transport Corridor. The simple abbreviation is INSTC. So in this topic we will going to discuss what is INSTC, how and when it came into existence, how it will going to help India to do the business using this shortcut. Now let's start with our first question. The first question is what is INSTC and how it came into existence. The INSTC is a multimodal transport network of rail, road and the water transport connectivity between India, Iran and Russia. It was an initiative in 2000 and was ratified in 2002. So the concept of INSTC is not new, it is quite old. The India has been very keen on INSTC not only for Russia but also for the Central Asia. India have to came up with a route to avoid the Pakistan logistic support, which is a regional obstructionist. This route also helped India to counter the China's Belt and Road Initiative. The INSTC is in the news because Iran in July 13 held an elaborate ceremony to welcome the first Russian bound cargo for the India through the half a dozen Iranian and the Russian cities. The cargo left the Chekhov stations in Russia on July 6 and it was received by a team of Iranian ministers. The INSTC is a 7,200 kilometer long transport network in comparison of 16,000 route that goes through Mediterranean Sea and the Baltic Sea, then the St. Petersburg in Russia. There is another historical turn in INSTC that is related to Ashgabat Agreement, which was agreed upon in 2011 by the states of Iran, Qatar, Oman, Turkmenistan and the Republic of Uzbekistan. In 2013, the Qatar decided to withdraw from the Ashgabat Agreement, while the Pakistan and Kazakhstan joined the Ashgabat Agreement in 2016, just 3 years later. The agreement was forced in 2016 and it aims to develop an international transport and transit corridor that link the Persian Gulf to Central Asia. That is why Ashgabat Agreement is very important because it links the Central Asia and the Middle East through the Persian Gulf. That is why in 2018 India joined the Ashgabat Agreement. The joining of India to this agreement has been showing tremendous strategic benefits for India because to India, Russia and the Central Asia equally important to protect the India's geopolitical and internal interest and also the interest related to energy. The Central Asia is India's extended neighborhood as well as the part of the Look North policy of India. This agreement synchronizes the international North-South transit corridor. Under this agreement, 677 km of Iran, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan railway link became operational in 2014, which is also part of the INSTC. That is why INSTC is important towards the related with the Ashgabat Agreement. Anyway, now we will going to discuss the route that goes through Iran to Russia. As the INSTC starts from India, that's why Mumbai is the southern half of the route. From Mumbai, the goods will be transported to Iran's Bandar Abbas port via sea. The Bandar Abbas is occupying the strategic positions on narrow Strait of Hormuz, and the Bandar Abbas is the busiest port of Iran. And 80% of the Iran's business is being done by the Bandar Abbas port, and the port doesn't come under the US sanctions. And I really do not know why US choose not to sanction Bandar Abbas and the Chabahar port. For Chabahar, the sanctions totally different because US will not going to sanction any of the India's interest in this region which is posing threat to China. But for Bandar Abbas, it is totally complicated. Anyway, there are no sanction or US sanctions on this port. Now from Bandar Abbas, the goods goes to the Caspian Sea port city called the Bandar-e-Azil via Bak. The Bak is an important city in this route because the double line railway network connects the Bandar Abbas to Bak. And the Bak the single line rail network connects the Karaj and then road network to Bandar-e Azali. From Bandar-e Azali to Astrakhan via ship across the Caspian Sea. From the Astrakhan route that goes to the Moscow and then St. Petersburg and the other regions of Russia. So India have decided to use this route extensively to gain the benefit out of the export-import of the oil and the different kinds of goods from Russia, Iran and the other nation in this region. Now the question is how India will be benefited and how India diversifying its trade route to avoid any unilateral sanctions of the United States and the European Union. It is known to us that the India usually use Suez Canal, Bosphorus Strait and the Black Sea to do the business with Russia. But the Black Sea route choked due to the Ukrainian war and the route is not safe enough because of the same reason, and the route is also lengthy and costly because of the taxes that comes under the European regime. Also the INSTC's length is only 7,200 km in comparison of both route which goes through Black Sea and the another one goes through Mediterranean, Baltic Sea and then St. Petersburg. The route that goes through Black Sea, its sea route distance from Mumbai to Russia is around 11,000 km. And the other one that goes through Suez, Mediterranean, Baltic, then St. Petersburg, that length is approximately 17,000 km. So the corridor will reduce transportation cost by 30% because the corridor is 40% shorter than the previous route. The travel time from the Mumbai to St. Petersburg usually takes 60 days. Now, because of this route, the travel time will be reduced to half, which is only 25 to 30 days, depends on the mode of transportation. The International North-South Transport Corridor is posing great threat to Beijing's Belt and the Road Initiative because BRI route is longer than the INSTC. To use the BRI to reach the Europe, the BRI will going to take 100 days, but to use the INSTC, it will going to take only 30 days. The International North-South Transit Corridor not only benefit India, but it will also going to provide the support to the other South and the Asian nation and also the African nations. All these nations will going to get benefited because of the India's calculated Act East policy and the strategic location in Indian Ocean region. India has already created Sagarmala initiative to connect the Indian Ocean region countries through ship route. Also, India built India-Myanmar-Thailand highway under the Act East policy. All these initiatives are already synced with INSTC. So, it will going to work as a transit hub between countries, and the India already have the trade routes with the East African countries. As all the nations are facing problems due to the energy crisis, especially oil, so the India can import unrefined oil from Russia and then refine it in its own refineries, then send those oil to the various nations in the Indian Ocean region. Right now, Europe, US and the Japan are buying the Russian oil via India. So this route is not only helping India, this is also helping other nations directly or indirectly. India is also doing business with other Commonwealth nations using this route. India is doing business with Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan using this facility. India import oil from Azerbaijan and Georgia. Indian oil wells are there in Georgia under the ONGC Vidash Nigam Limited. And Indian oil wells are also in Caspian Sea. India could be able to do business with Armenia through the Iran-Armenia railway link that connects Black Sea and Persian Gulf. So INSTC is cementing India's relationship with Central Asia, Iran and the countries in Eurasian region. It is the India's freedom to the economic initiative which is being affected or altered by the Western sanctions. As we are seeing the strategic significance of INSTC, but the INSTC also have constraints and impediments. Now we will going to discuss constraints which are hampering its interest. The first challenge is the security challenge in this region, the security challenge in the Caucasus and the Dagestan region of Russia, because infiltrations are happening through this region. The second reason is related to the funding of the infrastructure needed. The funding is a real problem in this region because these countries are facing several problems due to the sanctions, especially Russia and the Iran. Iran and the Russia is a heavily sanctioned country by the Western countries. Also lack of common border rules among the participation nations. Not only that, the railway tariff is also high along the road transport relating to the movement from the Bandar Abbas to the Russia. The trade is also hampered due to the shortages of the container. Apart from all this, the main constraint is the geographical barriers. The region is a mix of the harsh weather systems along with high Caucasus mountains and the mountains regions in Iran. Anyway, The problems are very natural and very common for any projects of the world. Even China is facing difficulties in operating their Belt and the Road Initiative. As the problems are the part of the life, so as the problems are the part of the projects. Anyway, India have to choose this path because India want to diversify its trade routes because of the Western influence in the Mediterranean and the Baltic Sea region. This is the best alternative for India to do the business with Russia. India cannot let go of Russia because Russia is our friend and important ally. And also Russia is India's trusted partner and largest weapon supplier. India also need US and the European nations to grow at a double digit. So it is a very tricky situation for India to balance the West and the East. And India is trying its best to balancing the two superpowers because the world depends on India. Now the first question is, which country was the top choice of the Indian nationals who renounces their Indian citizenship in 2021? The first option is UK, second is USA, third is UAE, fourth is Germany. The second question is, when is the International Moon Day celebrated annually? The first option is July 18, second is July 20, third is July 22, fourth is July 23. So this is the end of the topic. If you have any question regarding this topic or any other inquiries about anything, then please mail me to my email address, which is tuhin.power.academy@gmail.com. So I hope you will going to find this topic very, very informative. So this is the end. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.